Peace, family, and welcome to another episode of Underground Railroad Radio. This is your host, Brother Rich, and I am back with Minister Jew. What's happening, brother?
Hey, peace, Rich. What's going on? Glad to be back on your platform.
Yeah, I'm glad you're back. We got a quantum show today. We're dealing with some quantum physics today, brother. You ready for the show on quantum physics?
Absolutely, man. That's what I love to talk about.
You know, I'm always, I met you, I got introduced to you last year, and like I always tell you, I'm happy when we do these shows dealing with quantum physics, because this is a subject that the black community, I feel as though, needs to get into more, just to, in order to take control of their day-to-day activities, their life, their destiny, whatever. This is definitely a subject area that is a factor in my life, and it's something that I'm serious about when it comes to, being who I truly am, So I'm always glad to have you on it. You're going to drop the quantum for us.
Absolutely.
I'm glad, I'm glad there's, besides all the fight videos and the other stuff that people share on Facebook, you got to let people do what they do. You can't get mad at that. But a lot of people have been sharing an article. And the name of the article, the headline of the article is "New Mind-Blown Experiment Confirms That Reality Doesn't Exist If You Are Not Looking at It." So the reason why I'm glad that people are sharing this article is because, you got to give props to the brother that introduced you to something and put you up on game. The brother Bobby Hemmett, I think I said this in one of our previous shows, put me up on game with this quantum thing. And introduced me to the book, The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. So I want to give props to Bobby Hemmett, and on a real quick side note, people out there that may not get this right away, don't be mad. Still, you can get the book, or, you'll get it eventually. I remember when he first told me about a book, and I read some of it. This is about 10 years ago. About when I was 23 or something like that. And I was kind of upset a little bit that I didn't understand what the hell it was saying. I'm like, damn, in my mind, I'm like, damn, why Bobby didn't tell me to buy this book? I don't really, how is this going to help me? I don't really get it like that. But, fast forward 10 years later, I totally understand what the brother was saying. And the book is awesome. The book will change your life. Just this field, the study will change your life. So I'm just going to read a little bit of the article. Then I'm going to ask you to elaborate on it. Is that okay, Minister Drew?
That's perfect.
Okay. All right. A well-known theory in quantum physics says that a particle's behavior changes that depends on Let me go to another article I seen, family. Give me 1 second. I don't like the way that article started out. Okay, I'm going to just read a little bit, then I'm going to let you get into it. According to a well-known theory in quantum physics, a particle's behavior changes depending on whether there's an observer or not. It basically suggests that reality is a kind of illusion that exists only when we are looking at it. Numerous quantum experiments were conducted in the past and showed that this indeed might be the case. Now, physicists at the Australian National University have found further evidence for the illusory nature of reality. They recreated the John Wheeler's delayed choice experiment and confirmed that reality doesn't exist until it is measured, at least on an atomic scale. So the name of this article was "New Mind-Blown Experiment Confirms That Reality Doesn't Exist If You Are Not Looking at It." Without going on, Mr. Jew, because I know you're going to be able to explain it in a language that the people could understand more so than the article, which is, you use a lot of scientific terms. But, there's no getting around the scientific terms. But I just wanted, could you elaborate for us what this basically means and how is this extremely important? Because, we got to make this, relate this to our day-to-day living in order for it to make sense. So what makes this, what I just read, what we're talking about, so important to everybody that's listening in their day-to-day lives, Minister Jew?
Well, man, this is a great subject matter, first and foremost. And people just follow along with the conversation and addiction. and hopefully we can get somewhere that stretches the mind in this conversation. First of all, I want to say this, right? Because people may hear that, they may see the article, they may go back and read it. I want to let the people know right off the bat, this is not a pseudoscience. You've probably heard that term thrown around a lot. This is an illusion, it's not real, et cetera, et cetera. And it comes from a lot of the New Age data, the New Age material. This is actually the science that allows you to get on your computers, some of these smart TVs, et cetera, et cetera. This is a science. It is a real science, okay? And it baffles people because it goes completely contrary to the regular sense of what physics has given us as humanity, right? And so people are like, what do you mean if I don't observe something, it doesn't exist? You mean to tell me just because I'm not looking at the moon, that means the moon is not there, right? It's kind of a hard thing to grasp, but what we have to understand, what they mean in this particular article that Rich is talking about, we're talking about the actual particles, the small pieces of matter called electrons, photons, protons, etc., that actually are the building blocks and responsible for the physical thing that you call the moon, or the physical thing that you call the sun, or the physical thing that you call the human body that you are now conscious in. So first I want to take people to the double slit experiment so that they can get a firm understanding of what's going on here. We're talking about subatomic particles, very, 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 very small particles, but these are the things that actually are the building blocks for everything that we can see in this current reality that we're in, from your television to your roll of tissue paper in your bathroom to, I don't care what it is, the refrigerator, I don't care what it is that you look at. All of these things that you're perceiving in this reality consist of different type of atoms that are vibrating at a very, 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 very dense rate so that you're able to perceive it as a physical thing in this 3D reality or the visible spectrum of light. So when we talk about observation, what quantum physics has discovered and what our ancestors has also discovered prior to, but we're going to keep it in a modern context so that people can flow with this thing. What happens is that you have two functions on the quantum level. Things are waves and things are particles, right? Waves, what a wave is a infinite field where literally there are multiple million, trillion, billion different possibilities that exist, infinite, that exist inside of this wave, right? Just like you have, you get hooked up to an EEG machine and they can check the waves, the pulse in the brain, et cetera, et cetera. We're dealing with waves, right? And then what happens, right, what science has discovered in the double slit experiment is that they said, well, wow, let's take these tiny particles called electrons, right, and let's guide them through these two double slits, right? You can imagine a sheet of paper with two cuts in them that look like the number one, and they said, well, we're going to shoot these electrons through these openings in this paper, and because they're particles, which are very, 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 very small pieces of matter, when they show up on the other side of the paper, they should reflect the shape in which they pass through. In this case, the number 11, right? But what they found out was these electrons did not respond in that nature. the electrons, which were small pieces of matter, when they passed through the double slit, they actually came out on the other side to look like a wave pattern. And this completely threw the laws of physics for a loop, so much so that when Albert Einstein experienced this experiment, he called it spooky action at a distance. He did not want to believe that particles of matter can still behave like a wave. He could not understand that. So he's actually the latter part of his life. He spent the latter part of his life before he expired out of that physical body. He went on trying to disprove it, and every time he had an experiment concocted, it always came back negative, that he was wrong, that this thing actually was going on. So what does observation have to do with reality becoming solid or real, as we would call it, right? Well, what they found out was they said, well, we need to see why this tiny piece of matter called an electron is responding this way, because this is a phenomenon that goes against the laws of relativity and physics. So they put a recording device behind the sheet of paper, and the moment that they put a device behind the sheet of paper that can actually record or measure or observe the phenomenon, the wave then turned into a particle. In other words, when a device is online that has the capability to record, measure, or observe waves or tiny particles of light or components of an atom called an electron, this somehow changes the state of that electron from a wave that has infinite possibilities and probabilities into a sound, definite shape. So now, how does this play into our everyday lives? This literally means that the human consciousness and our ability to observe a thing, right, actually has an effect on its physical characteristics, right? And then that infinite wave of possibility and probability can conform to what it is that we're imagining in our mind's eye to create. And I guess I can let you go from there, Rich, to lead me into the next question.
I mean, when you say it like that, and, like, just me hearing it, I get a little goosebumps. The way it's set up, and the way, the universal mind or the universal creator, God, infinite intelligence, Allah, whatever name you may have for this divine force that we know created the universe, the way it's set up, the way you explain it, the way the ancestors explain it when you read about the Hermetic laws or the laws of Tahuti, it is like, damn, Minister Jew, like, we could literally, this is the thing that I'm trying to figure out how to set this up. It's literally, we could literally have heaven on earth. There's literally no limit to anything we could do. But on one end, we're like, so the people might say, well, Minister Jew, Brother Rich, why are things the way they are? They don't understand that what you're saying, or even I guess, I'm 33 at the age I am. I haven't attained, in one sense I haven't, maybe physically I don't see everything right now that I may want, although I know that is my vibration. It's like, if this is true, people are wondering, Minister Jew, why aren't things happening the way they want it to happen? Because, with that being said, everybody wants to observe, a beautiful family, a beautiful home, a beautiful nation, some beautiful organic food that they're eating, a beautiful woman if you're a man, a beautiful man if you're a handsome man, if you're a woman, some nice clothes. People want to experience this and they keep hearing about it. It's not going away. I guess it kind of got mainstream when The Secret came out, but I guess it frustrates people that people keep saying this, and now you're saying that it's infinite possibilities, and that there's this wave force out there that's saying, nigga, what you want me to turn into? It's like Aladdin's lamp, like they said. Aladdin's lamp, they're saying, your wish is my command. Like literally, this consciousness field is saying, literally, it's saying, Brother Rich, Minister Jew, your wish is my command. So what the people are saying, if my wish is your command, I wish this, but I don't see it happening. So what's going on, Minister Jew, from what the actual science is and why people aren't seeing, and maybe they do see the results that they want, they're just not realizing it, but explain what's going on, why people aren't seeing more of what they want with this science being, your wish is my command.
Man, that's such a great question, all right? And we're going to get into this thing, man. This is where the due diligence of studying the human brain comes into play, all right? We have to understand, right, that when we're dealing with these quantum laws and this quantum phenomenon, right, these waves are having to engage, right, a device that actually does the recording, right, and witnessing doing the recording and witnessing as it's moving through our consciousness. So now here's the question. This is what the people have to ask themselves. What part of our brains does the recording for imagery? The part of our brain that does recording for imagery and memory is the hippocampus in the right hemisphere of the brain, right? It literally creates imagery from multiple experiences to give you new imagery, right? Say, for instance, in your dream, right, where you have all these different things coming into play from maybe past experiences or experiences that you may want to have in the future. The hippocampus is recording this data, right? This is why when you get into some of these holy books, they're trying to tell you the process, but we keep mistaking these things for secular history, and we keep thinking that these men or these women actually physically walked around here when these books are trying to unlock this holy consciousness inside of you. These books are literally your autobiographies when you understand them properly.
Autobiography.
So this is why you see in these texts Joseph the Dreamer, right? The 11th son. But then you start to get into the neuroscience of the imagination, which the hippocampus governs, and you'll see that 11 different structures in the brain actually come online in the process of imagining. You see? So the reason that people are not being able to magnetize and collapse the wave, as they call it in quantum physics, into the particle in which they want, is because they're not being persistent in what imagery they're filtering into their mind. They're constantly picking up the newspaper and reading the violent whatever that's going on in the paper, or they can't stay off CNN long enough, or MSNBC long enough, or Fox News long enough to be able to create their own imagery in their mind for the movie that they want to make. Or we'll go sit in the movie theater for 2.5 hours and ponder what the movie means, not knowing that we are our own creators. And the brain part that actually allows for these quantum particles to collapse in your reality is the hippocampus. So you're not being persistent. You may have an idea one day, right? But you're not thinking from the place. You're not thinking from the quantum place. You're thinking of the quantum place. Example, you want a nice house, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all you do is think of the nice house and say, I would like to have that. But let me ask you a question, Rich. What makes the place that you're in right now in your home real to you? The mere fact that your feet is touching the floor. The mere fact that your hand is grasping the phone. The mere fact that you can hear the sounds coming from out of the street or the corner, wherever your house is positioned, makes that experience of the here and now real. Your senses collapse away, right?
Mm-hmm.
To let you know that you are in your bedroom right now, or you're in your living room right now. So now, if your senses in the sense of touch, feel, smell, hearing create the qubit reality for you in the here and now, wherever you're at, what happens when you apply those same perceptions in your imaginal act of the house? Can you feel your feet in the floor of that house that you want to sleep in? Can you feel the sheets of the bed in that house that you're going to sleep in? Can you smell the smell of the freshly cut grass on your beautiful lawn that you're going to be abiding on? You see, that's the secret. That's the secret. So,
yeah, brother. Yeah, brother.
And so when you read these holy books, right, and I give you an example, it talks about in the book of Luke, right, it's a scripture in there where people get all excited in the metaphysical community, and they say, when it says, if thy eye is single, thy body be filled with light, right? And then people immediately make reference to the pineal gland when they hear that, but that's incorrect. When you actually go do the translation for eye in that particular script, it comes out to ophthalmos, which is where you get your current day medical term thalamus or optic thalami, right? Why is this important? Because the thalamus in the brain is what regulates all of your senses at any given moment to tell you what state of consciousness you're in, from your sight to touch to smell, etc., etc. So now, when we're dealing with light, because we're talking about quantum physics and atoms, that's light. Electrons, photons, these are all components that produce light, right? Then what were the ancients trying to tell us about the thalamus or the optic thalami being flooded with light? It's something in the brain called, that happens in the brain, they call the binding factor in science, where the thalamus is sending a signal from the front to the back of the brain and vice versa, literally 23 times every second, to keep you in the current state of consciousness that you're in. However, the binding factor can be broken when you start using specific brain parts in correspondence to certain techniques called prayer and meditation, so that you can get outside of the regular state of consciousness, so that you can get into the quantum world to have it as you like it in the physical world. You understand that?
Yeah. Before you get into the art of prayer, because me and you talked on the phone about how we want to talk about what prayer actually is. I just I had a question based on what you was talking about. Real good question. When you was talking about the imagination and thinking from it, and you was talking about using your senses, just like if I'm sitting in my apartment right now and I feel the floor and I feel this phone that I'm on and I feel the table in my computer, when you're imagining, you have to feel whatever you imagine the same way, in essence the same way that you are feeling everything in front of you now, and your brain can't distinguish whether it's real or not.
That's right.
They did a test on that. My thing to you, Minister June, and this is from experience, not necessarily from a book. The thing that I found, and I just want you to elaborate on it. The thing that I found, and the thing that I found that might be hurting a lot of people, is that when you want something, Minister Jew, one of the first things the universe does is send somebody, whether it may be somebody on your job, whether it may be a friend, whether it could be an old family member that all of a sudden you get in contact. All of a sudden you meet somebody that has the very thing that you want. So if I want to be successful in, say, music, all of a sudden I may meet somebody who's successful at music. From my observation, the thing that cuts people off from, that's one of the first things the universe does now, Minister Jew. The thing that cuts people off from obtaining that is they get jealous and they get envious. And we have this word called hating. They start hating because they think they're separate from the thing that they want. So they become, you could get inspired by that person or you could get intimidated. I found that people more often get intimidated and insecure by continuously seeing somebody with the shit that they want. So a girl may say, I want a good man. All of a sudden, she may meet a girl with a good man, and it's too much for her to handle constantly being around this girl that got a good man and she ain't got a good man. So her ties with that girl ends, and now she's back in the same situation. But what I find, Minister Jew, is that you have to get inspired by that person because the universe is trying to make your imagination more real. So they say the 5 people you hang around with, is you're going to be just like them people in the future. Birds of a feather flock together. Your income is going to be like the 5 people. Everybody, think of the 5 people you hang around with now, what their income is. They saying your income is going to be similar to those 5 people 5 years from now because of the similarity of frequencies. You have to get inspired by that person the universe introduces you to, and your imagination will become more vivid. So because I wanted to, I'm giving an example. So because I wanted to get involved in disseminating information and so on and so forth, I was serious about it. I got introduced, whether somebody may like him or not, to one of the most successful brothers in the underground market, the conscious circuit, that does it, i.e. Sadnetta. Now, I could have said, I don't like some of the things the brother do, fuck the brother, but I use being around him, being under him, this is why they say get a mentor or whatever, and it enabled my imagination 100 times more because I see what the emotions that brother goes through when he succeeds, and I say, damn, I want to succeed like that, but on my own level. So that brother contributed to my imagination 100-fold because I seen when he was out there doing his thing, whether it was a lecture, whether it was an interview, and I seen the happiness on his face when he had a crowd out there interviewing Bobby Hemmett. And I didn't say, damn, man, fuck this nigga. I said, damn, I want to be like that. I want to interview Bobby Hemmett. I want to have people watch me while I talk to Bobby Hemmett. Bobby Hemmett is the god. Damn, I'm inspired by that. So because of that, and because you don't chase those people away, you get inspired by those people, and it makes it much easier for you. So I want you to elaborate, Minister Jew. And the majority of people that hate don't realize they hating or don't want to admit they hating. So I want you to elaborate, and we got to be honest with ourselves. That's how we advance, by being honest with ourselves. And at one point, everybody in their life was a little jealous or whatever of somebody from the time they were born to whatever age they are now. So we got to be honest with ourselves. So with that being said, Minister Jew, tell me a little bit about what we call hate or jealousy and how that, just basically how that is just it doesn't help at all. So if there is a little bit of hate or jealousy, why we need to get rid of it? Because it's not helping at all. Please talk about that.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to say this. Self-talk creates reality. The thing that you talk about internally, right? So even if you never told the brother or the sister, I don't like them or I can't stand them, right? But you said that to yourself internally. And I want people from this show to monitor the inner dialogue that they have on a consistent basis. Because everybody talks to themselves all day. You have a conversation with yourself about what you're going to do later, what you're going to do tomorrow, who said this yesterday, what did you see on the internet today, et cetera, et cetera. You have all these inner dialogues, right? So the quantum responds to the inner man and the inner woman. It does not respond to the external stuff that you're putting out to the world. Like, you know, you said internally you can't stand them or you can't stand her, but you're in this person's presence, right? Or internally you're saying I don't like them, right? Example, you know, you might not like a person, right? But you're selling their products, but you don't really like them though. And then all of a sudden in the future you find yourself in a conflict with that person. And you're trying to figure out, well, damn, I never said nothing to him, I ain't like him. Or I never said nothing to her, I don't like her. Why are we in this situation? Because the quantum only responds to what's going on internally. This is the meaning of the scripture where it talks about there will be no things that are secret in this world. Because everything you think you got a secret, you don't have a secret, man. Your life is going to reflect on the screen of space called your everyday experience, and it's going to show up through a person, through an event of something or some type of situation where your internal secret that you think you're holding is going to meet you at your doorstep, right? And then your memory may be bad and you can't remember when you had that negative thought about that person or that negative idea about that event or whoever, right? And then it shows up and then you start blaming the other people. You know, I don't know, you know, it's their fault. I don't know why they did. No, you did it. You just can't remember when you dropped that seed into the ground. So you, first of all, monitor your self-talk because that's why you're not getting to where you want to be in your establishment, in your creation, and you collapsing this wave into a particle in order to manifest what it is that you want. Furthermore, you have to get inside of the structure of your brain. Again, it's going to always go back to Golgotha or the land of the skull that they talk about in the scripture. You're going to have to take it into this thing that processes this consciousness, all right? So when you understand that your left brain is dealing with all these anger, frustration. They do these CAT scans on like killers or people who rob people, just violent crimes. And these people always have some type of issue with a particular region, either in their left frontal lobe or somewhere in their left temporal lobe. They always having a issue when they go look at the brains of these people to find out why do these people have these tendencies, right? And this comes from over too much damn logic, right? Because we're not nobody's teaching us this science about how we're composed and what we're made up of on a conscious and a subconscious level. Most people want to deal with the body and the biology of the body, right? And that's good because we need that. But when you start getting into the faculties of mentalism and the mind, right, that's a whole nother plateau. So we have to understand that we are limiting ourselves because we're not studying the higher principles of the mind and how this quantum thing actually works. You're in the moment. Let me take it here. Let me tell you why, and we're gonna take it to the quantum so they can understand, so we can keep it on cue. In quantum physics, right, there's something called wave interference, right, where these electrons pass through the slit, right, and then they cancel each other out, right, at the top or the bottom, and this is what creates this wave phenomenon where it looks like it's just multiple waves on the back of the screen once it passes through the slit. So why is this important? Because we have to equate what's going on the level of quantum inside of human consciousness in order to get the same results. It's called the law of correspondence. When you get into the esoteric data, you start to understand that if I can mimic a thing that's similar to this, I can reproduce it or replicate it, i.e. Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, right? Anybody, because I just posted something to show and said this is a good example of mirror neurons. Kobe Bryant studied Michael Jordan profusely, so much to the point where all of his moves, Kobe Bryant would do them on the exact same location on the court, even the hand gestures in the exact same. Identical.
Great example.
So what's happening here, we have to understand that sometimes if not all of the time, and this is why we're not producing what we want on a level of quantum, is because we're running our own interference patterns. We're not allowing that wave to collapse into a single particle. We keep running all of this interference called hate, called jealousy, called envy, right? And we're canceling our own damn wave out. We're canceling it out, right? And then it just remains just infinite possibilities and probabilities. And you never receive what it is that you're trying to tap into exactly, right? And we have to learn how to be exact when we ask for what we want, because science has proven that when people actually write their goals down on paper, 80% of the time they achieve them, which takes you back to the Tahuti principle about scribing and the importance of writing and the mysticism behind it. What makes it different from me holding a thought in my mind versus me actually writing it down that changes the variable of actual realization from less than 50% to 80%, simply because I collapsed the wave which was in my mind and made a distinct measurement and wrote it down on paper. So now the quantum is converging on this idea, because now I'm saying I have intentions on making this absolute. And I would love to get into some examples of this to show people the power of it, But the hate, you're canceling out your own wave potential when you start hating or being envious. And when people are coming into your life that are mimicking or replicating the things that you're putting in your imaginal act, this is the universe's way of showing you that you are tapping into the field.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
You see? I hope that answered the question.
No, definitely. You asked, shit, that was excellent, brother. That's why I can't help but smile, man, because I love having this type of conversation, man. I swear I do. It means everything to me. One thing I'm glad, before I get to the next question, one thing I'm glad that you just said, brother, is the inner dialogue. And the book Conversations with God, I forget who it's by, Walsh or something. I'll say that. I'll say the name later, y'all, if I remember. The Conversations with God talked about that. Because, Minister Jew, like you said, that's when you're honest with yourself. By the time the words leave an average person's mouth, they're often lies. People lie. They say, "Oh, how you doing? I love you, man." Or, "Hey, man, yeah, I'm having a good day." Or, "Hey, man, people start to lie. But the inner dialogue is what's honest, because that's where the feelings are connected. And sometimes what you say out your mouth, there's no, it's just, you're trying to show face, as they say. So definitely monitor your inner dialogue. If you're real about this, y'all, and you want to see what type of person you really are and not who you just tell people who you are. So I'm very, very glad you brought that up, brother. Next, is there something you want to get into before the next question, brother?
No, I just wanted to cite an example of how writing things.
Right, go ahead, brother. Good.
All right, and you all can Google this, YouTube it, right? I think it's a clip from 1997. I may have mentioned it before, but it might be some new people listening. And what you need to do is type in Jim Carrey, Oprah Winfrey Show. I think it was 1996 or 97. And at this time, Jim Carrey was striving to become big in his craft, the craft of acting, being a comedian, et cetera, et cetera. And he said he remembered riding through California and looking at these prestigious, nice homes. And he used to tell himself, I'm going to live here. I know I'm going to live here. I just haven't caught up to myself, that self yet, to be able to be in one of these type of places. And so he said what he did was he took a check out, right? He took a blank check that he had, right, from his checking account, whatever he had. And he wrote on the check $10 million paid to the order of Jim Carrey. $10 million. And at the bottom in the memo section, he put for for services rendered, for acting services rendered. So in his mind, he said, somebody's going to give me $10 million for an acting service that I have not yet done and or committed myself to. And the date that he wrote it out for was like November 25th, let's just say 1999 or 2000 or whatever it was. 3 years from the actual time where he actually wrote it down on the check, right? He said, and at this time, this was a young Oprah. She wasn't into the Deepak Chopra or none of that stuff. She hadn't got into the spiritual side yet, right? And she was like, she couldn't understand it, but he told her what happened. He said, well, you know, Oprah, what happened? The same week, 3 years later, let's just say he wrote the check November 25th for the year 2000. He said that same week, 3 years later, on the exact same day, November 25th, 2010, he got a call from a production company and told him that we're interested in you playing this part for us in this big movie that we have coming out called Dumb and Dumber. And we want to offer you $10 million to play this part. Do you understand the power in that, Rich?
No, definitely.
He scribed this into existence. He had the thoughts in his mind. He rode past these homes that he knew he belonged in. He had so much faith in it that he decided to enact a scene that would imply that he had it. And like clockwork, on the very same date of the very same year that he wrote that check out for, that reality walked into his life. So we have to understand, and I want to say this too, right? Because the quantum is not biased to your race or your gender. I want to be specific.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother.
I'll say it for you. I want to be specific. It's not biased to that, okay? It is a field that is the potential to be tapped in by whoever has a conscious thinking mind who can imagine. That's who it's accessible to, right? And so you see today how this state is so static, right? Because every day on your news feed, right, you're giving all of this observation to a lot of negativity that is consistently begetting the same negativity that you may be crying is an injustice to. You see?
Well, let's talk about we've been bombarded with images of police brutality nonstop pretty much for 2 years. I mean, I haven't seen a bombardment like this in a while, and some may say it's because of camera phones, but let's talk about it. What kind of effect is this having on the psyche, Minister Jim?
Well, this is actually creating the same phenomenon over and over and over and over again. See, like you said before, when they do these studies on the brain, they find out that the brain it cannot decide what's real and what's not simply based off of your physical senses. The perception of the thing actually rings clear as well. I'll give you an example. They did an experiment where they took a guy, right, and they said, all we want you to do for 9 weeks is to imagine that you're curling dumbbells on your arm. Just imagine that you got a 50-pound dumbbell and you can feel the resistance of you curling this thing on your arm. Do you know in 9 weeks this gentleman had like 7% muscle mass increase?
Just by imagining.
Just by imagining that he was curling a 50-pound dumbbell in his arm. His muscle mass increased 7% because he was committing that act in his mind. So now, not only does imagining affect the psychology, it's affecting the physiology of the body. So we're going to have to step our games up, man. Like, we're going to have to get past all of this, all of these things that are causing these emotional disturbances in our psychology. And we're going to have to understand that this is the part that we like to call, this is where the part that we call God exists in man. right? And that the more imagery that 2, 5, and 7 perpetrates into your hippocampus, right, the more of that type of imagery is going to be projected into the 3D reality that you call life. So we're going to have to start creating our own imagery, right, that separates us from this type of action. But see, people are so left brain and have not studied the clinical studies of the mind, right, that they don't understand that their thoughts actually move matter, Rich. They don't understand that. You see?
Well, Minister Drew, some people, and I know nobody has actually told me this, but I guess somebody had to tell me. But I pretty much feel it. Like I'm real intuitive. So you may not say something directly, but just the expression on your face, how you talk about a thing, I could pretty much, I know what you really want to say, but maybe you don't say. The thing I'm feeling from our people is that, Minister Drew, maybe it's not worth it to have everything you talking about if our people are still suffering. If a 14-year-old girl gets sat on or slammed to the ground by a white officer, some people feel as though, what good is driving a Bentley and having a mansion when everybody else in my town is poor and fucked up? So what do you have to say to those who may want to stay in a certain state because their people, the ones they love, is in that state, and they'd rather be with the ones they love than be alone and have everything in the world?
Well, that's a very good question, and I'll answer two ways. First of all, if they want to stay in that state, that's totally up to them. That's the state that they choose to be in, right? If they're comfortable in that state, right, and they want to be in that state, then that's fine, because it's all it is a state. You enter in and out of these states. Now, let me say this, because I said I wasn't going to go here tonight, but I'll scratch the surface a little bit, because anybody that knows me and my comrade Noble Lampoon, we get down on a whole other level when it comes to the injustice. So I want to make it clear. I'm not just saying this science can only be used to manifest good living. This same science can be used to put a can of whoop ass, excuse my language, where there is moments and states of injustice. So, but I said I wasn't going to focus on that tonight. But for those people who are in that state, we have utilized this science time and time again in order to render results. But see, people are so caught up on conspiracy, Rich, because they don't understand the phenomenon of how this science works, that it goes like this, right? You can have an indictment of the police, right? Something that you've never seen happen before, right? You can have people resigning. You can have other people getting brought up on charges, et cetera, right? And then immediately people start going into this. They concoct a conspiracy as to why the police even got charged. They immediately take it back into their left brain, not understanding how the universal flow of things can operate on their behalf. When you see something happening that is contrary to what the norm is, right, we are so used to being in the fight that we find a way to make it look like we still have to fight about something, right? But the deal is, if we really want to use this science, and I'll talk about this later because we got an event coming up on July 11, 2015 in Atlanta, specifically dealing with the rumble side of this science, right? To show people that they have other options, right? Contrary to what they think are the solutions, right? But that takes explanation. It takes example. We have to run people through things that we've exhibited and demonstrated publicly, and where people have witnessed it and been a part of it. So for those people who may feel that way, there are solutions using this science as well, because it can be used on both sides of the ledger, because it's not biased to that either. It's not only is it not biased to race or gender, it's not biased to your perception of good and bad. How do you want to use it?
It's the great I am. You decide.
That's right.
You decide what the great, like we said earlier, that genie in a bottle.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, Minister Jew, you got to send me that flyer for that event so I can post it when I upload this on YouTube for the people to see. So definitely send me that.
Okay.
One thing that I've heard people talk about throughout the years, when we dealing with the science of of creating reality out of wave, for creating collapsing the wave. Let's use that term of collapsing the wave. People find that they are able to collapse the wave when it's something insignificant, when they're just joking. A dude will make a joke like, nigga, I just hit the, like, a dude might even lie. Let me use this as an example. A person may lie. You may call me, Minister Jew, and you be like, yo, Rich, man, I've been trying to get in contact with you, and I'm like, and I know I didn't pick up my phone, so I may say, Minister Jew, man, I was sick, brother, that's why I couldn't call you. Then all of a sudden I get motherfucking sick. People like, God damn, I just said I was sick, now I'm sick. And, they find that sometimes when they lie becomes a reality. Or sometimes when a person may apply for a job. He don't put too much pressure into getting a job. He's like, you know what, I'm going to apply this job, and he may tell somebody, I'm going to get that job, and he may get the job. Somebody who really, 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 really wants the job, Minister Jew, don't get the job. So people are wondering, God damn, Minister Jew, why am I able to collapse the wave on something I didn't really, really want, but what I really wanted, the wave didn't collapse for me. I really want a good woman at home. I can't get that, but I don't care for this job that much, but I keep getting a promotion at the job, so that's the reason why I'm staying in. What's the science behind that, Minister Jew?
Well, that's a great question, man. That's because they're not being specific enough in what it is that they want, and they're not being persistent long enough in what it is that they want, or their inner dialogue that they're running to themselves is not congruent with what they want. You see, and the quantum, I'm going to say this about the quantum has a hard time responding to negatives. So when you say stuff like, I'm not sick, right, or I can't, you start using the nots and the can'ts, right, it doesn't pick up on the register. It just goes right to the sick part or the down part. Like, so that's why I say we have to be very selective, right, about what we say. And I give you an example astrologically of what I'm talking about for people who might understand that craft. When you get on the wheel, right, and you got these 12 houses in space, and you got these 12 constellations, right, zodiac signs, et cetera, et cetera. If we're going to talk quantum, then we would have to say quantum would be a Neptune Pisces thing where it's illusion, it's nothing concrete, it can be a whole bunch of things, there's some fog there. It could be a whole bunch of stuff, right? But on the other side of that Neptunian force or that 12th house force, right, you have a 6th house placement or a Virgo thing. And anybody who understands the Virgo principle understands that this is the most meticulous, detail-oriented signature in the zodiac. So what has to happen to bring the balance of the quantum, right, or what we would associate with the quantum if we just had to limit the quantum to a zodiac sign? And trust me, it goes way beyond astrology, right, because the quantum actually creates the damn constellation, all right? So for it to even be a constellation called Pisces, you have to have quantum particles, electrons, photons, et cetera, to make up the actual building blocks for the constellation. So I don't want to limit it to astrology. I'm just using this for an example. When you see the other side, and we're going to bring this thing to a dynamic balance, we understand that the quantum is saying, in order for you to tap into what it is that you want that exists in this wave of infinite probabilities and possibilities, you're going to have to use the thing that's 180 degrees away from it, which is being very detail-oriented in what it is that you want. So you have to say to yourself, and you have to give it all the tones of reality of life. What type of job do you want? What would you be doing if you were there? What would be the title that you would be holding? Even if you knew where it is that you want to work in, have you ever drove past that parking lot to see where you would park your car? Because I'm going to tell you, I got some phenomenal experiences of my own using this quantum science. This is just not theory with me. I actually use this science to get what I want, right? And then when we break this thing down and start taking into the law of correspondence, we see it again in the gestation process of a child in the mother's womb. What they say the number one cause for miscarriages is when the chromosomes of the mother and the father do not fuse properly in the fetus in order to give it the building blocks in order to carry on to become a child at full term. But we have to. What do we know about? Because remember, we're talking about manifestation using the quantum, a psycho-spiritual thing. What are chromosomes? The chromosomes from the mother and the father, they are the building blocks that hold all the detailed information from the mother and the father to pass over to the child of what's going to be the genetic makeup of the baby. So if you can see through corresponding agencies how these things trickle down from spiritual to psychological to physical, they're all the same. They have the same principles at heart. So in order for you to bring your child full term for what it is that you're saying that you want, you're going to have to be detailed, because if you're not detailed, the child on a psycho-spiritual quantum level will never get an opportunity to develop and appear as an object, a person, or an event in your physical reality. You understand?
Indeed. And that's real. I guess, when you say that, it makes me think about just dealing with this subject. And I guess this will be the last question to wrap it up. So subject of collapsing the wave, and this wave containing infinite possibilities. I guess I want to get in the subject of parallel realities. I guess would the infinite potentials of that wave, each one of those potentials is another parallel reality? Would you compare it to that?
Well, when we start talking about parallel realities, right? This is a very quantum question, and I had a post not too long ago on my homie page, right? And it's this thing called the many worlds theory, where they talk about how all these worlds exist simultaneously at the same time.
Right,
However, they're in different locations in time and space, right? And so what we understand is, right, you can tap into those particular frequencies, just like when you got your radio on, right? And sometimes you might be listening to 92.3, right? But somehow 98.7 comes in and runs a little interference for a moment, and you can hear the record coming through from the other channel, right? What's happening is you're having it's a moment in time where it's a time slip where certain phenomena will cross over into your space, or you can cross over into someone else's spaces, in somebody else's space. And this is where the fourth dimensional thinking comes into play, when you start to understand space and time, right? And the more you have of one, the less you have of another. And depending upon your angle and which way that you move in space and time, it alters. If you turn 1 degree right, and let's just say you're 1 million years away from somebody, but y'all on the same exact line in space, but you turn right, that allows you to perceive the person who's on the same line of space 1 million miles away 100 years in the past. But if you turn left, right, on that same line of space, you're able to see that person's future 100 years in the future and be able to see their grandchildren. So, this science is the most powerful subject matter we can be talking about on the planet. Because this can literally take us out of the state of injustice that so many people are rightfully so complaining about. So, I mean, on all levels, Rich, it can be used, man. So absolutely, man. That's real. That's a real phenomenon. And when you get into the art of meditation that actually gets you past the binding factor in the brain, you're able to explore these different dimensions of reality. right? This is the beautiful part about being the I am of man. We have to really, really understand what that means, man.
You know, and that with that being said, shout out to, well, you know, I want to big up Neville Goddard for bringing this information. Everybody get his books. Neville Goddard. I'll put his name up on the screen. You know, he pretty much talked about everything what we're talking about. This information has been around. It's more accessible now because of the internet, because of Google. Happy to have this conversation. To wrap it up, would you tell the people how could they get in contact with you, Minister Jew?
Absolutely,
man. Anything you got coming up, please let them know.
Absolutely, man. You can reach me at www.myastrologycoach.com. Me and my partner, Noble Ampu, we running this show over there. That's a great brother, do a lot of great work. Me and him, we tag team, man. We side by side on everything that we do on this science. So you can go over there and check us out. You can reach me at area code 267-403-4078. Again, 267-403-4078. That's the number. You reach out, ask for Minister Jew. You should be able to get me. We got a few things coming up, man. First of all, we're going to be in Atlanta. We having a major book release. We co-authored a book called Spiritual Wisdom for the 21st Century, where we take turns answering questions that a lot of people have been sending us. And so we decided to put it in a piece of literature and answer it for a broader audience to understand the mindset of the priesthood, because that's what we call ourselves, the priesthood, ranging from information dealing with twin flames, but not in a traditional New Agey sense. We're actually approaching it from the subject matter of entanglement, which is a quantum physics term, right? About how light can actually be binded together and then split up and then still have the same type of responses to one another, even though they're a million miles apart. So we use that concept to talk about twin flames. We talk about the human imagination, and we also talk about cosmic DNA being the language of the universe. So it's a very, very impelling, insightful piece of literature. We're going to be releasing that on 7/11 in Atlanta. Go to the website under retreats. If you're interested in coming down, it's going to be a weekend event. If you sign up for the workshop, you get the book for free. It's going to be signed by myself and Ampu. And then Sunday, we're going to be going over to Stone Mountain, Georgia, and we're going to be participating in what we've termed the Stump Off. And it's a whole bunch of symbolism around 7/11 for those that understand the history of the Moors, et cetera, et cetera. But we're going to go in on a quantum level and shake things up like we always do. So we hope that you all come out and participate for that. And then we got something coming up July 5th, the week before. That'll be up on the website. Hopefully tomorrow we're going to be in the Columbus, Ohio area. We're going to be talking about some of this stuff that we're going to be presenting down in Atlanta. That's going to be exciting. So get to the website, man, under retreats, under events. We always got stuff going on, man. And that's where you can reach us at, man, and reach me at specifically.
Yes, and on that note, brother, I want to thank you for being on the show. I do agree with you, brother, about this being the most important topic in the world, and that is a huge statement to say. You know, to say in the world with everything going on, for me and you to say this is the most important topic. And the reason why I say that is because everything else is a byproduct of it. Everything. Injustice, justice, everything else is a byproduct of that I am, this great I am, this wave potential that we're talking about. So,
Rich, and one last thing before we go, just to add on to that, I don't care what you see in your reality, is made up of subatomic particles. Now, if these subatomic particles, which are components of light, are intelligent, and they are, and they make up the entire world that you live in, all the way down to the events that take place, because it takes people to make events, right? And people are made of atoms, et cetera, et cetera. If science and our ancestors were already aware of how intelligent light was, i.e. Akhenaten, right, dealing with light and Ra, et cetera, understanding how photons are messenger particles. Why would they call photons messenger particles? Somebody who's carrying a message has something to tell you. It's trying to communicate something to you. So if everything that we see in this reality is built off this component and it is conscious, why are we not spending our time trying to engage the consciousness of the things or thing that creates everything we see in the physical reality? That's why it's the most important.
I mean, indeed. I guess an analogy would be, you know, you watching them. We in the movie. We watching the movie screen, and we're trying to change the movie by touching the screen, and the screen is just a projection of the film. So in order to change the projection, we got to change the film. So we trying to change the projection instead of changing what creates the projection.
That's right.
So, you know, we got it reversed, but, you know, we in this age of awakening, we're remembering who we are now. You know, I'm tired. I put a lot into this show, man. I appreciate it. You covered it, man. Covered on the show. And please contact Minister Jew. If you resonate with the brother, if you don't, fine, but, you know, hit the brother up if you resonate with the brother. It's definitely information that'll change your life. Underground Railroad Radio. Once again, y'all, that donate button is up now. Donate to Underground Railroad so we continue to make quality content, and so we can bring you the best information possible. On that note, we signing out, y'all. Peace.
Peace.